Hey, I'm Ethan. I'm 24, wrapping up my digital arts degree, and I'd take a quiet evening sketching over a crowded club any day. My perfect weekend involves a long hike through a forest with my sketchpad tucked under my arm. Simple joys always hit deeper for me than anything flashy. That's how I ended up driving to the hills one chilly Friday afternoon with my best friend Nate and his mom, Sarah. Nate had pitched this trip after Sarah's messy divorce, saying she needed a break from the bustle of town. The plan was simple: a weekend in a remote cabin, skiing, wandering trails, and just chilling far from life's chaos. I hadn't seen Sarah in years, not since high school days. But when I saw her again, something shifted inside me. She stepped out of the car at the cabin, her auburn hair catching the fading light, her eyes sharp but holding a quiet weight they didn't use to carry. She wore a cozy sweater and jeans, moving with an easy elegance. A strange tug pulled at me, unfamiliar and a little disorienting. "Hey Ethan, long time," she said with a warm smile, her voice steady and kind. "Way too long," I replied, fumbling a bit, scratching the back of my neck. "You look great, Sarah." She gave a soft laugh, light and musical. "Thanks. You're all grown up yourself." Nate was already hauling bags from the car, clueless as ever. "Yo, a little help here," he shouted, snapping us out of the oddly charged moment. The cabin was warm and rustic, with a stone fireplace ready to go, logs stacked neatly nearby. Big windows framed snow-dusted evergreens stretching toward far-off ridges. Felt like home instantly. Sarah started setting out snacks in the kitchen while Nate and I unpacked our stuff. But just as we were settling in, Nate's phone buzzed. He checked the screen and winced, answering with a sigh. His face grew grim as he talked, and I felt a twinge of unease, sensing trouble. "Sorry guys," Nate said, looking genuinely frustrated. "Work emergency. Systems down and they're losing clients. I've gotta head back now." "You're kidding," I muttered, disappointment settling in. This was his idea after all. "Wish I was," Nate said, grabbing his jacket and keys. "You two stay. Cabin's booked for the weekend. I'll fix this and be back by tomorrow night tops." Sarah looked worried but quickly reassured him. "It's fine, Nate. Take care of work. Ethan and I'll be okay." I hesitated, unsure. Being alone with Sarah wasn't something I'd planned for. "Maybe I should go back too," I offered half-heartedly. Sarah shook her head, resting a gentle hand on my arm. "Don't be ridiculous, Ethan. Stay and unwind. The weather's gorgeous today. No need for both of you to bail." Her touch, soft but steady, lingered just a moment longer than it needed to. Her eyes met mine, warm but with a spark I couldn't quite read, sending my pulse racing unexpectedly. Nate gave his mom a quick hug, slapped my shoulder and promised a speedy return. Minutes later he was gone, leaving a quiet hum between Sarah and me. "Coffee?" she asked, cutting through the awkwardness. "I brought some killer beans from home." "Coffee sounds great," I said, grateful for the familiar ground. We sipped our coffee in silence at first, standing by the wide window. The view outside was peaceful, crisp, untouched. Sarah turned to me, leaning lightly against the counter, her stance relaxed yet graceful. "I really appreciate you staying, Ethan," she said, her voice quieter now. "It's been a tough stretch lately." I nodded, catching the hint of vulnerability. "Glad to be here," I said. "Honestly, it's been ages since I just paused and took a breath. This view isn't half bad either." I gave a small smile, hoping to ease the moment. Sarah chuckled, her eyes catching the light. "Well, I'll try to be decent company." "You always are," I said without thinking, feeling a flush creep up my face. Her gaze held mine a beat longer than normal. "You've really grown up, Ethan." "In the best way." I stared into my coffee, my heart suddenly pounding. "Thanks, Sarah." "You're still as stunning as ever," I said, surprising myself with the boldness. She blushed faintly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Careful," she teased, her voice soft and warm. "You'll make an older woman blush." I laughed, stumbling over the tension, but inside, my emotions were a whirlwind, confusion tangled with a spark of excitement. What was this feeling? Why was her presence hitting me so hard? We spent the afternoon wandering the trails, our conversation easing into something natural and open. We talked about dreams, setbacks, and quiet hopes. With every step, every shared word, I felt drawn to her, no longer seeing her as just Nate's mom, but as Sarah, a woman who completely held my attention. As dusk crept in, clouds gathered on the horizon, darkening with the promise of snow. Back at the cabin, we started on dinner together, the air between us alive but oddly comforting. Her laughter came easier, her eyes brighter, the weight of her earlier sadness lifting for a moment. "You know," she said, stirring a pot of stew, I can't recall the last time I felt this at ease. I paused, mid-chop on some carrots, and looked at her softly. Same here. Good, she said, her smile gentle, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe this weekend was supposed to go exactly like this. Outside, the sky grew heavier, the first snowflakes falling quietly, unnoticed by us. We were too caught up in the warmth of the kitchen, in the subtle connection growing between us. Neither of us realized the gentle snow was the start of a storm that would soon trap us together, drawing us closer than we could have imagined. After a quiet dinner, I planned to rest a bit and head back to town later that evening. Sarah was great company, but staying overnight, just the two of us, felt like it could get tricky. Around 8 o'clock I checked my stuff, grabbed my jacket and slung my bag over my shoulder, ready to go. Sarah stood by the wide window, her face tightening as she looked outside. Ethan, the snow's getting worse, she said, turning to me with a hint of concern in her voice. I joined her at the window, peering into the darkening night. Heavy snowflakes whipped through the air, blanketing the ground fast, driven by sharp, relentless wind. The trees bent under the storm's force. I think I can still make it, I said, trying to sound sure, though doubt tightened in my chest. Sarah shook her head, resting a gentle hand on my arm. Ethan, the road down the hill gets treacherous in snow like this. It's safer if you stay tonight. I wavered, caught between the logic of staying and the unease of what that might mean. A sudden gust slammed the cabin, startling us both. The walls groaned under the wind's force and the lights flickered faintly. We shared a quick, knowing look, realizing the decision was no longer ours. Sarah moved to the door, cracking it open briefly before shutting it fast. A rush of cold air and snow spilled inside, confirming the worst. The path from the cabin was gone, buried under a thick layer of snow. We're stuck, Sarah whispered, her voice steady but laced with quiet worry. I let out a quiet sigh, nodding. Seems like it. Sarah glanced around the room, then gave me a steadying smile. It's all right. We've got food, plenty of firewood. We'll manage. We set to work preparing for what looked like a long, frigid night. I stepped outside to grab more logs from the stack by the cabin, bracing against the sharp wind and biting snow, feeling a quiet urge to keep things together for Sarah. Back inside, Sarah had tidied the fireplace and I knelt beside her, stacking logs and kindling. Our hands brushed now and then, sending small, unexpected sparks through me, my pulse picking up each time. The fire finally caught, casting a warm glow across the room. Sarah let out a relieved breath, brushing her hair back. Her eyes met mine, soft with gratitude. Thank you, Ethan. I'd be a mess here alone right now. No trouble at all, Sarah, I said, my voice quieter than I meant. I'm glad I'm here. Honestly, I'm glad you're here too. She paused, studying me for a moment, then stood and headed to the kitchen. Some hot tea might settle us, she said lightly. Warm us up. I nodded and followed her into the cramped kitchen. The tight space had us brushing against each other, each accidental touch speeding my heartbeat, each sorry, paired with nervous laughs. Sarah caught my unease and smiled gently, easing the air. With tea ready, we settled on the couch by the fire's crackle. Sarah tucked her legs under a blanket, the tea's warmth softening her face. I sat close, hyper-aware of the shrinking space between us. We sipped in silence, watching the flames, the quiet both easy and electric. Sarah broke the stillness, her voice soft. You know, Ethan, it's been forever since I felt this calm. I glanced at her, curiosity tugging at me. What do you mean? She hesitated, then spoke quietly. Since the divorce, I've been holding it together, always strong, never slipping. But here with you, I feel like I can just be. Her words hit deep. I turned to face her, my gaze steady. I didn't know you felt like that, Sarah, I said softly. For what it's worth, I've always thought you were incredible. Nate's always bragging about how strong his mom is. She laughed, a bittersweet sound. Nate puts me on a pedestal. I've tried to shield him from my cracks. Sometimes I wish someone could see past the tough act. I see you, I said before I could stop myself, my voice low and sure. You don't have to be strong all the time. It's okay to let go. Sarah looked at me, her eyes shining in the firelight, touched by my words. A small, almost shy smile curved her lips. Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling just a bit, you have no idea how much that means. My heart raced and I couldn't look away. In that moment, the fact that she was Nate's mom felt far away, drowned out by the warmth and connection growing between us. The storm raged on outside, piling snow around the cabin, cutting us off from the world. But here, in the fire's soft glow, wrapped in this unexpected closeness, I wasn't afraid. The walls between us were crumbling, giving way to something deeper, more complex than either of us had expected. The fire's gentle crackle mixed with the wind's howl outside, as snow buried the paths down the hill. It was obvious we weren't going anywhere tonight. But instead of worry, a quiet calm settled over me, the fire's warmth and Sarah's presence weaving a surprising intimacy. Sarah had scrounged up some simple ingredients in the kitchen, putting together a small spread of bread, cheese, and dried apples. We sat close on the couch, eating in silence, our knees brushing now and then. Each touch sent a small jolt through me, my pulse ticking up. After a moment, Sarah set her plate down, staring into the flickering fire, her expression heavy with thought. She sighed softly, breaking the easy quiet. You know, Ethan, after my divorce I thought life would get simpler. But honestly, it's been harder. Her voice was low, her eyes still on the flames. I turned to her, giving her my full focus. How so? I asked gently, urging her to go on. Sarah paused, then gave a faint smile. At first it felt like freedom. No more fights, no more tension. But then the loneliness hit. The house felt so empty even with Nate around. And when he left for college, the silence was deafening. Her voice wavered and she took a shaky breath. I never knew loneliness could weigh so much. Her openness struck me, tugging at my heart. I'm really sorry you went through that, I said sincerely. No one should feel that alone. I can't imagine how hard that was. She turned to me, her eyes soft and glistening with something fragile. Thank you for listening, Ethan. I haven't told anyone this, not even Nate. I didn't want to weigh him down. You're never a burden, Sarah, I said softly, holding her gaze. Nate adores you, but I get why you'd keep this to yourself. It's easier to carry things alone, even if it hurts. Sarah nodded, brushing a single tear from her cheek. Exactly. But tonight, here with you, it feels different. Safe somehow. I swallowed, warmth spreading through me. I feel it too, I admitted, surprised by my own candor. She smiled, shy but warm, before looking back at the fire. Tell me about you, Ethan. I feel like I barely know you, even after all these years with Nate. I leaned back, feeling oddly at ease as I opened up. Not much to say, really. I've always been quiet, more at home with a sketchpad or hiking alone than at some loud party. That's why I love art and drawing. It lets me capture the small things people miss. Sarah's eyes lit up with genuine curiosity. That's beautiful. You see the world in a way most don't, more vividly. I smiled at her words. Maybe. But it can feel lonely too. It's hard to connect when you're always watching from the sidelines. She tilted her head, thoughtful. And yet, here you are, connecting with me. My heart skipped and I shifted, feeling warmth in my cheeks. Maybe because I feel like you get it? You know what it's like to feel apart, disconnected. Sarah's face softened, her gaze warm and knowing. You're right. I guess that's something we share. It's odd how easy it is to talk to you. I could say the same, I said, my voice almost a whisper. She edged closer, pulling the blanket tighter. Our shoulders touched now, and neither of us moved away. I was hyper-aware of her warmth, her nearness, the way her hair fell softly around her. Sarah hesitated, then spoke quietly. You know, I've spent my life putting everyone else first. Nate, my ex, my friends, always being the strong one. But tonight, for once, I don't feel that weight to keep it all together. You shouldn't have to, I whispered. You deserve someone who sees beyond that strength and looks out for you too. Sarah's eyes met mine and I saw her swallow, a flicker of nerves in her expression. Her voice was soft, almost a murmur. I haven't opened up like this to anyone in years, Ethan. My heart thudded, thoughts scrambling, but my words came steady, true. Neither have I. I usually keep things locked away, scared to weigh anyone down. But with you it feels easy. Sarah's eyes glimmered with quiet emotion, the walls between us fading in the firelight. In this snowbound cabin, cut off from the world, we'd carved out a small space of raw honesty, a fragile haven where nothing else existed but this moment, this bond. After a soft silence, Sarah spoke, her voice laced with curiosity. Have you ever been in love, Ethan? The question caught me off balance. I paused, then answered truthfully. I thought I was once or twice, but looking back it wasn't deep enough. Not what I think love should be. Not yet. She nodded, her gaze thoughtful. Love's messy, isn't it? I thought I knew it once. Now, I'm not sure I ever really did. Maybe we don't get love until we've lost it, I said quietly, my chest tightening at the truth in my words. Sarah's eyes softened, the fire's glow catching in them, stealing my breath. Maybe. But sometimes I think love isn't just something we lose. Maybe it's something we stumble into when we're not even looking. Our eyes locked, the air crackling with something electric. I leaned in slightly, pulled toward her without thinking, my breath quickening as her eyes widened, noticing the shift. I stopped short, pulling back, suddenly aware of the line I'd nearly crossed. "I'm sorry," I mumbled. "I didn't mean—" "Don't apologize, Ethan," Sarah cut in, her voice gentle, steadying. "You didn't do anything wrong. We're both caught in this moment. It's okay." The tension didn't fade. It hung there, warm and alive, wrapping us in its quiet pull. Her hand brushed mine on the couch, resting there lightly, and neither of us pulled away. We sat in silence, content in the shared warmth, words unnecessary. Outside, the storm roared on, sealing us off from the world. Yet here, in this tucked-away corner of the hills, I felt closer to Sarah than I'd ever felt to anyone. I woke with a shiver, the cabin colder than before. I must have dozed off on the couch, but the chill pulled me back. The storm still howled outside, rattling the windows, a reminder of our isolation. Rubbing my eyes, I glanced at the fireplace. The flames had dwindled to faint embers. As I stood to stoke the fire, my heart skipped when I saw Sarah by the hearth, awake, staring into the fading glow, lost in thought. "Sarah?" I said softly, stepping closer. "You okay?" She flinched slightly, then turned, a fragile smile crossing her lips. "Couldn't sleep," she admitted quietly. "It's cold and too many thoughts." "Let me fix the fire," I said, kneeling beside her, adding logs to coax the flames back. Soon, the fire crackled to life, its glow warming the room. "Thanks, Ethan," she murmured, pulling her blanket tighter. She shifted to make space, a quiet invitation to sit. I settled beside her, grateful for her warmth, sensing she needed company more than solitude. We sat in silence, the fire's soft pops and the wind's howl the only sounds. Then Sarah sighed, leaning slightly into me, her voice a whisper. "Do you ever feel like life just slipped past you, Ethan? Like you missed something that really mattered?" Her voice trembled, raw with vulnerability, her eyes reflecting the fire's light and a quiet ache. My heart ached with empathy, and without thinking, I gently placed my hand on hers, giving a soft squeeze. "Sometimes," I said quietly, "I wonder if I've spent too long sketching life instead of living it. I'm scared I'll wake up one day and realize I missed my shot to really live." Sarah nodded, leaning closer, her voice heavy with feeling. "That's it exactly. After my divorce, I thought I'd finally find clarity, live fully. But I've just felt more lost. Sometimes I think I've missed my chance at joy." Her words cut deep, and I turned to her, gently holding her hands in mine. "Sarah, it's never too late. You're strong, kind, beautiful. You deserve happiness more than anyone." She looked up, her eyes shimmering, her guard completely down. She wasn't Nate's mom in that moment, just Sarah, raw and human. "You really believe that?" she whispered, searching my face. "Absolutely," I said, my voice steady with conviction. "You've spent your life putting others first. Maybe it's time someone looked after you." Sarah's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, resting her head on my shoulder. "It's strange," she murmured, "how someone so young can see me so clearly." "Age doesn't always mean understanding," I said softly, my pulse racing. "Sometimes it's just about seeing someone for who they are." Silence settled for a moment, her words hanging between us. Then she spoke, her voice soft, hesitant. "Ethan, I haven't let myself get this close to anyone in so long. It's scary, but it feels right. How can it be both?" I took a deep breath, heart pounding. "I know what you mean. I didn't expect this either, but now that it's here, I don't regret it for a second." Sarah lifted her head, facing me fully, her eyes intense yet uncertain. My feelings for her hit me hard, undeniable. "It's scary," I admitted, holding her gaze, "but maybe this fear means something. Maybe what's between us matters." Her breath caught, her eyes softening. "Ethan, this is complicated. I'm Nate's mom, you're his friend. But right now, none of that feels real. All I feel is safe with you." "I feel the same," I whispered, raw and honest. "And I don't want fear to stop what's happening here." Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with quiet bravery. "Then let's not think about tomorrow or what happens when we leave. Tonight, we're just two people who found comfort in each other. Can we do that?" I squeezed her hand, my heart steady with certainty. "Absolutely." A warm silence wrapped around us as we sat close, the storm's howl a distant reminder of our isolation. But inside this cabin, something had shifted, deep and unspoken. Sarah turned to me again, her voice soft. "Ethan, what's your biggest dream?" I smiled, thinking it over. "I've always wanted to travel, sketch the world, capture its edges. But lately, my dreams are changing, towards something more personal, deeper." She tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean?" I met her gaze, every word heavy with truth. I want someone to share it with, someone who gets me, sees me clearly, someone to hold on to through life's storms, not just the ones outside. Sarah's face softened, her eyes warm with understanding and tenderness. That's a beautiful dream, Ethan, Sarah said softly. And one day you'll find that person. Without thinking, my words slipped out, quiet but certain. Maybe I already have. Sarah's breath caught, her eyes widening, but she didn't pull back. Instead, she leaned forward, her forehead resting gently against mine, eyes closing for a moment. Her breath was warm against my skin as she whispered, "Ethan, I just need you to know how much this means to me." "I know," I replied, my voice steady but soft. "It means everything to me too." We stayed like that for a long time, foreheads touching, breath sinking, hearts racing. The storm raged on outside, but in that small, isolated cabin, I felt safer, more connected than ever before. This night, these raw emotions would change how I saw the world, and how I saw Sarah, forever. The storm grew fiercer through the night, pounding the cabin relentlessly. Snow buried everything in thick layers, and the wind howled, rattling windows and making the walls creak uneasily. Our fragile sanctuary felt more vulnerable as the fire's warmth faded, our firewood running low. I glanced at the nearly empty basket by the hearth, knowing we'd have to face the storm again soon. Sarah caught my look and sighed, resigned. "We'll need more wood," she said quietly. "We won't last the night otherwise." I nodded, pulling on my heavy coat and gloves. Sarah bundled up too, her face tight with worry. As we approached the door, I touched her shoulder gently. "Stay close, Sarah," I urged, voice thick with concern. "The wind's brutal and visibility's bad." She gave a brave nod. "I will." Stepping outside was like entering another realm. The cold bit instantly, the wind whipping snow into a blinding frenzy. We edged toward the woodpile against the cabin, moving fast but carefully. As I grabbed an armful of logs, Sarah gasped sharply behind me. I spun around, heart in my throat, as she slipped on hidden ice, stumbling backward toward the snow. Instinct took over, I dropped the logs and lunged, catching her in my arms, pulling her close against me. My breath hitched as I held her, her warmth pressed to my chest, our faces inches apart, breaths mingling in the icy air. Time slowed. The storm's roar faded as our eyes locked, raw with surprise, vulnerability, and something deeper. Neither of us moved, caught in the sudden intimacy. "You okay?" I whispered, barely audible over the wind. Sarah nodded slowly, her gaze steady, hands gripping my coat. "I'm fine, thanks to you," she breathed, her cheeks flushed, not just from the cold but from the emotion between us. My heart pounded as I helped her stand, but we didn't step apart. We stood close, partially shielded by the cabin wall, wrapped in a powerful, unexpected closeness. Sarah's eyes searched mine, wrestling with something unspoken. "Ethan, she started, her voice a hesitant whisper trailing off. I understood. Taking a steady breath, I found my courage. "I know," I said quietly, holding her gaze. "Maybe we shouldn't, but nothing has ever felt more right." Sarah hesitated, her eyes flickering with doubt before softening. She closed the small gap between us, tilting her face toward mine. Heart racing, I leaned down, meeting her in a soft, careful kiss. It was tentative at first, tender, brimming with unspoken vulnerability. The kiss deepened, growing more intense, more certain. Sarah's hand settled gently on my chest, fingers curling into my coat as she pressed closer. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tightly, our heartbeats sinking in a rapid rhythm. All thoughts of boundaries or hesitation melted away, replaced by a clarity I'd never known. The storm roared around us, but we stood anchored together, bound by this new connection. When we finally parted, breathless, our eyes locked in quiet awe. Sarah's gaze softened, her fingers brushing my face, a tentative smile forming. "Ethan, we shouldn't," she whispered, her voice tinged with sorrow more than resolve. I covered her hand with mine, pressing it gently against my cheek. "But it feels right, Sarah," I said firmly. "You feel it too." She sighed, torn but rooted in place. "It does. More right than anything in ages," she admitted, her voice barely carrying over the wind. "But it's so complicated." "I know," I said, steady despite the chaos around us. "We'll face that tomorrow. For now, let's just have this." Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, vulnerability mixing with trust. "Okay," she whispered. "Just for tonight." We gathered the firewood in silence, stealing small, meaningful glances as we headed back inside. I stoked the fire, coaxing warmth back into the cabin. Wrapped in a thick blanket on the couch, Sarah leaned against my chest, her breathing soft, her body easing into mine. The walls between us were gone, replaced by a natural, unguarded closeness. "Ethan," she said at last, her voice warm with sincerity, "this isn't just because we're stuck here, is it?" I squeezed her hand gently. "No, Sarah. What I feel is bigger than this moment. I mean that." She closed her eyes, sinking deeper into my hold. "Then I'm glad this storm trapped us," she whispered. "Me too," I said, pressing a soft kiss to her hair. In the quiet, we listened to the wind's relentless howl, but inside we were untouched by it. Our bond grew stronger with every moment, a fragile yet undeniable force. I knew complications awaited when the storm cleared, questions, consequences, but in that moment they didn't matter. All that mattered was Sarah, the woman who'd unexpectedly claimed my heart, turning a simple getaway into something profound. Holding her close, I felt certain that whatever lay ahead, we'd face it together. For the first time, that thought brought not fear but quiet hope and strength. The fire crackled, casting warm shadows across the cabin. As we stepped inside, I shut the door against the storm's fury, sealing us in once more. Neither Sarah nor I spoke, the silence alive with excitement and a vulnerability we weren't ready to name. Sarah slipped off her coat, hanging it by the door, her hands trembling slightly. Her eyes met mine briefly before darting away, a quiet struggle flickering across her face. The thrill of our kiss lingered, but the weight of reality was creeping in. "Sarah," I started softly, breaking the charged quiet. "Are you okay?" I asked gently. Sarah turned slowly, taking a deep breath, her eyes swirling with conflicting emotions. "Ethan, she faltered, words catching. "I didn't mean for this to happen, to make things so complicated. It feels incredible, but—" Her voice trailed off, eyes glistening with guilt and worry. I stepped closer, carefully taking her hands in mine. "Sarah, listen," I said softly, voice steady with sincerity. "I know it's messy. You're Nate's mom, I'm his friend. But what happened out there wasn't a mistake. Not to me." Her eyes snapped to mine, searching. "You mean that?" she asked, hope and doubt tangled in her voice. "I do," I said firmly. "What I feel for you is real. It's complicated, sure, but we can figure it out. Together." Sarah's shoulders eased, her gaze softening. She stepped closer, resting her head against my shoulder. "Ethan, I want to believe you. I do. But Nate, he's everything to me. I can't risk hurting him." I wrapped my arms around her, stroking her back gently. "Nate's my best friend. I'd never want to hurt him either," I said softly. "When the storm clears, we'll talk to him. We'll handle it carefully together. But for tonight, can we set the fears aside?" She exhaled, melting into my embrace. "Just tonight," she whispered, voice heavy with feeling. "I think I can do that." We stood there, holding each other in the fire's warm glow. The storm roared outside, but inside there was only calm, anchored by the connection we'd built. Sarah pulled back slightly, her face softer but still vulnerable. "Ethan," she said, her fingers grazing my cheek. "Promise me something." "Anything," I said, meeting her gaze. "Promise we'll always be honest with each other no matter what comes next," she whispered, her eyes earnest. I nodded, lifting her hand to press a soft kiss to it. "I promise, Sarah. You'll always have my honesty." Her lips curved into a tender, relieved smile. "Thank you. That's all I need right now." We settled back onto the couch, tucked under a thick blanket. Sarah rested her head on my chest, her breathing slowing, steadying. Our fingers laced together naturally, silently affirming our bond. After a quiet moment, Sarah spoke, her voice soft. "When we got here, I thought this weekend was just about escaping. My worries, my responsibilities. But now, I see it's about facing something I've buried for too long." I squeezed her hand, urging her on. "What's that?" She lifted her head, eyes meeting mine with quiet resolve. "It's about letting myself feel something real again. Letting someone in, even if it terrifies me." My chest warmed with admiration. "Sarah, you're one of the strongest people I know. Letting yourself feel isn't weakness, it's courage." Her eyes shimmered, touched by my words. "It's hard to do, even if it sounds simple." "Maybe," I said softly. "But I'm here to help carry that weight with you. You don't have to face anything alone anymore," I said softly. Sarah sighed, nestling closer, her warmth grounding me. "Ethan, I'm so grateful you're here. I didn't expect this, but now that it's happened, I wouldn't change it for anything." My heart swelled and I tightened my hold on her. "Neither would I. It feels like everything led us to this. No matter what's next, tonight is ours and nothing can take that away." She lifted her head, her eyes meeting mine with quiet intensity. Then let's make tonight matter. Let's not waste it on tomorrow's worries. I leaned in, kissing her softly, slowly, cherishing every second. Her lips met mine with warmth, confirming the truth in her words. We parted, sharing a lingering look filled with understanding and quiet affection. Settling back into silence, we held each other, wrapped in the intimacy we'd found. The fire's glow enveloped us, the storm's roar fading into the distance. In this secluded hilltop cabin, we'd stumbled into something profound, far beyond what either of us had anticipated. Holding Sarah, I let myself fully feel the depth of my emotions. I cared for her, not just as Nate's mom, but as the remarkable woman I'd come to know in these unexpected hours. It was both thrilling and daunting to realize how much she meant to me. Sarah shifted, looking up with gentle curiosity. Ethan, do you think things happen for a reason? I smiled, brushing her cheek. I never used to, but now, I think I do. Maybe the storm, Nate leaving, all of it was meant to bring us here to see each other clearly. She nodded, her eyes soft with agreement. I want to believe that too. It makes this feel even more special. I kissed her forehead, holding her close. Then let's trust it. Trust each other and let go of fear for tonight. Sarah closed her eyes, a faint smile on her lips. I trust you, Ethan, more than you know. Holding her, a deep peace settled over me. In this warm, isolated haven, the outside world felt far away. For tonight, only Sarah mattered, the woman who'd quietly captured my heart. Whatever challenges awaited, I knew I wanted to face them with her. The next morning arrived softly, the storm finally easing its hold on the hills. Gentle sunlight slipped through the snow-draped windows, casting a golden glow over the cabin. Sarah stirred against my chest, her breathing steady and soft. I stayed still, savoring the moment's tranquility, brushing a strand of hair from her face, wishing to stretch this time forever. But reality loomed beyond the cabin door. Sarah opened her eyes, blinking slowly, then met my gaze with a tender, bittersweet smile. The warmth of last night lingered, but dawn had brought a cautious clarity to her expression. "Good morning," she murmured, her voice soft but guarded. "Morning," I replied, my heart tightening at the hesitation in her eyes. "Looks like the storm's over." She glanced at the window, her face growing serious. "It is," she said, a slight quiver in her voice. "Guess we have to face the real world again." I took her hand, squeezing gently. "It doesn't change what happened here, Sarah. Nothing can." She smiled faintly, but worry flickered in her eyes. "I know, but it doesn't make us, any less complicated." My chest ached at her words' truth. "I get it," I said quietly. "It won't be easy, but that doesn't mean it's impossible." Sarah sat up, pulling the blanket around her like a shield against her doubts. She avoided my gaze for a moment, taking a steadying breath. "Ethan, last night was beautiful, but we both know what we have to do. Nate's my son, your best friend. I can't risk hurting him." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her conflict. "Sarah, I'd never want to hurt Nate either. But don't we deserve happiness too?" Her eyes glistened with tears, her voice barely a whisper. "We do. But sometimes that happiness can't come at the cost of those we love. Not now." Her pain was raw, and my heart tightened as I saw her torn between duty and desire. I touched her shoulder gently, my voice steady with sincerity. "I respect your choice, Sarah," I said, my voice heavy but sincere. "It's hard, but I understand." She looked at me, her face a mix of relief and heartbreak. "Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you know." We began packing to leave the cabin, moving quietly, each lost in thought. The silence carried the weight of our emotions, broken only by fleeting glances and gentle touches, each one a quiet echo of what we'd shared. Outside, the fresh snow sparkled under the morning sun, the path down the hill now clear enough to travel. Loading the car was bittersweet, every item a reminder of the haven we were leaving behind. By the car, Sarah paused, looking back at the cabin, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Ethan," she said softly, turning to me, her voice trembling. "Do you think things could have been different if we'd met another way?" I stepped closer, brushing her cheek gently, my gaze steady. "I've wondered that too. But maybe we needed this moment, this storm, to really see each other." She nodded, a faint smile flickering. "Maybe you're right." We stood in the crisp hilltop air, serene yet heavy, until she spoke again, her voice firm with resolve. "Ethan, no matter what's next, promise me one thing." I held her eyes, ready for anything. "Anything. Promise you won't regret what happened here," she whispered, her voice thick. My heart ached, but my reply was unwavering. Sarah, I'll never regret a single second. She nodded, grateful, leaning into my arms for a brief, tight embrace before stepping back. We climbed into the car, silence settling between us, both aware of the uncertainty ahead. The hills, with their quiet magic and deep connection, faded in the rear view as we began the descent. As we neared the main road, Sarah spoke, her voice hesitant but clear. Ethan, I don't know what the future holds for us. Maybe one day things will be different. I glanced at her, taking in her soft profile. I'll wait for that day, I said, quiet but resolute. Her eyes softened as she turned to me, her voice barely audible but warm with gratitude. I'll never forget this, Ethan. Whatever comes next, you've made me feel more alive, more seen than I have in years. I smiled, a bittersweet ache in my chest. Same here, Sarah. You've changed something in me, something I won't ignore. That won't change. Sarah leaned back, gazing ahead thoughtfully. Then let's hold on to that. For now, maybe that's enough. The car wound down the hill, carrying us back to life's complexities. Despite the uncertain future, neither of us regretted a moment of what we'd shared. The bond forged in that snowy cabin was real, undeniable, even if it remained uncertain. In the quiet, I reached across, taking Sarah's hand one last time. Her fingers laced with mine, a silent confirmation that what we felt was true. The road stretched ahead, unclear and daunting, but as I glanced at Sarah, the uncertainty didn't scare me. It sparked hope that our paths might cross again, free from the constraints holding us back. As we descended, I clung to that hope, certain in my heart that this story was far from finished.